welcome Thomas. Thomas is our other learner from cohort 1. Both Katie and Thomas have been attending almost every session for cohort 1. So they are the ones to ask the right questions. Any questions you guys have around the schedule, around the content, around the learning, around the whole program. The idea is for you to ask them directly. For this, we're going to follow an ordered way of asking. So if you guys could raise your hands for questions you might have. And before that, I would like for Katie and Thomas to introduce themselves very briefly and why they decided to take the Adizes executive program. So I don't know who wants to go first, Katie or Thomas.
Ladies first.
Thanks, Thomas. Hi, I'm Katie Hanna. I'm actually based in the US, and I had been using the Adizes methodology for about 15 years in my practice. And so specifically more of the life cycles and a little bit of their PAEI model. And so I was really looking at joining to, one, get energized, also go deeper into the methodology and understand it at a deeper and also broader level, and really see how I could take what I learned and kind of reimagine some of my consulting practices. And so, and I would argue that I've gotten all of that and a lot more from that program. I am a partner in a consulting firm and have been doing consulting, like I said, for almost 3 decades. So that's a little bit about me. Thomas?
Thanks, Katie. Sorry for throwing you under the bus with the opening like that. My name is Thomas Nyborg. I am originally from Denmark, and I live between Thailand and Denmark, but I work mostly in Italy. I am in my 60s, and I actually took a almost 10-year break from corporate management by trying to invest in startups as an angel investor, and ended up being drawn back into board roles, which is what I do now. So I serve on the board of 3 different companies, and have just picked up another seat, so that will be 4. And they're all going through massive organizational transformations. So the first job, the first board role was kind of like thrown at me, and I realized I needed some ropes. And I've always liked Adizes methodology. I did my first program maybe 10, 12 years ago, lost a little bit of touch, came back in, and I knew that I needed to up my game in terms of sort of like a how-to list. And that's basically what made me decide to go for this program here. And if I'm gonna go say what's my takeaway from this, we have 1 session left, which is the big session with Dr. Adizes himself, after having gone through, what is it, Katie, 48 weeks of weekend sessions. And I actually, when I thought about before joining this one here, what was going to be my takeaway, I actually want more. I don't know if that somehow sums it up, that it's been a great experience all the way through, but I'm not done learning, and I'm not done practicing this. And I think what I will be doing mostly on my final session here is try to figure out how can I do more of this. It's been great along the way. And then go ahead, ask questions. Katie and I studied on what was Saturday and Sunday mornings for Katie, which was at 10 p.m. For me on Saturdays and Sundays when I was in Thailand, and 4 p.m. when I was in Europe. Yeah, I don't really know how we made it, but we did.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Okay, so anybody who has a question, again, around the content, around the program, around the self-study, around the live sessions, peers, any questions you guys have, please feel free to share them so both Thomas and Katie can answer. We also have gathered some questions from participants that could not make it today, but they want to understand a few things around the program. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand in using the Zoom function, or just open your mic.
I'm trying to find my hand.
But
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Martin. I work with a leadership development organization based in Dallas, Texas. And we have actually a few colleagues from our organization that are exploring the program. So I came with a list of a few questions that they had, since not everybody was able to join today. Some of them are pretty simple, but some curiosity about the homework requirements outside of the live sessions and the time requirements.
Yep.
I'll go first. I think that there are I would say there are times where, for me, because I really wanted to understand the content and take advantage of the live sessions, that I probably spent 6 hours during the week reading or watching videos, utilizing the resources. And then there were other times where it might be an hour and a half. And kind of towards the end, it has been where we're doing case studies, so it's even less than that probably. Do you have a different thought, Thomas?
no, I think at one point we were actually, Katie and I were somehow trying to see if we were correlating, and I think we came up with that it was an average of 4 hours. I think it depends. You know, some of the videos, if you're a fast listener, you can dial up the videos to time and a half, and then you can get through them faster. It's very varied between what the preparation is. You know, some of the modules had more reading, especially towards the end, which was a little bit surprising for us, when I had gotten used to the videos. But and that took a little longer for me also, because I think I found the last modules more challenging. My past is I was a CEO in a company with 8,600 people that grew at 50 people a week. So I had a lot of hands-on learning that I somehow had to catalog. I don't know if that makes any sense. As I was reading the theory, I somehow spent a little bit more time thinking about what had happened to me. So somehow catalog my own experience along the way, and that took a little bit longer. But I mean, that's actually what's probably the most valuable part of it is for me now, is that I somehow also have a view back on what it was I went through and what I learned from it.
I will say, I think that to get the most out of it, really trying to keep up with the work is really important. Because if you get behind, because the sessions are very much based on what you were learning that week. And so I think if you get behind, you're not able to get nearly as much out of those sessions. I mean, you'll still get things out of it, but I don't feel like you can participate as deeply, and I don't feel like you get as much out.
No, I've actually cheated a little bit and asked Rodrigo about some of my pet peeves with this program, and one of them was that if you missed Saturday's session, we couldn't watch the recording until later that same week. So you would show up either unprepared or behind for the Sunday session. Whereas I know that the current cohort is now split up, and you will be able to watch later in the same day if you missed that session. I think that would have made a huge difference along the way in terms of keeping up. I had times where we were closing a deal on buying a company where I couldn't actually keep up, and I agree with Katie. It took an effort to catch up with this. I mean, it's impossible that you go through a 40+ week year without having some upheaval, something happen in your life, and I think I mean I mean, I guess we're living proof that you can do it. I mean, we had I ended up in hospital along the way, you know, had surgery, and you know, couldn't really keep. I mean, it's possible to catch up, right? So, and lots of travel on my part that messed with time zones and stuff like that. But it is possible to keep up.
Thank you very much, Thomas and Katie. Lisa, we will come back to your questions. If I just want to know if there are any more questions from the other participants. Alex, Pablo, Mariam, and Evelyn. Or
This might be a little bit
yeah,
more specific for Katie. Um, in regards to adapting or people willing to learn, because this to me is a different model than most of the programs I've seen come across in the United States. How well are they receiving this, or how are you presenting it to them to let them know this is something, in my opinion, it's very different. I mean, I'm very familiar with EOS and Scale Up and all these other ones. To come across this, it's a different kind of model. And I'm trying to also, I have a couple different clients that I work with on a consulting side of things, and explaining to this, I'm having sometimes a struggle with how do I even explain what this methodology is in comparison to what they know, and also willing to accept the differences and the strategy behind this model, essentially. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I actually, I feel like it's actually made me a much better consultant, to be honest with you, because I think good consultants are always learning, like you're looking at, and bringing in different types of tools and different methodology. So I had always used the life cycle. And so now I'm able to go so much deeper. And what's interesting is my clients are now using a lot of that terminology and knowing like where they're at on the life cycle and normalizing challenges there. I've also I think a lot of it is I'll bring it in through when I'm doing kind of the organizational assessment. I'll bring a lot of the methodology through as I'm asking questions, but also as I'm presenting the report. I'm actually going to probably change how I've done consulting a little bit and bring in, they give you like team problem solving tools that have been really valuable. And I'm looking at doing strategic planning a little differently. Our strategic plans seem to be not as externally focused as I would like them to be. And they have a tool called a mission action plan that really looks at a lot of the external factors as well. And so so what I've done personally, Alex, is I have taken how I've always done things and I've interwoven the Adizes methodology into it. And I haven't really found that I haven't found any challenges with that. In fact, I've found that my clients are appreciating it even more because I think I can bring a lot more to the table as a result. Thomas has actually taken it into companies, so I'm sure he can give you also a different vantage point on that. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so maybe if I can add something here, I think the beauty and what's always attracted me to Adizes methodology is that it somehow is very far from consultant speak. I'm from the other side of the table. I hired consultants and I work with top-notch consultants, and this is actually very much the opposite. You know, it's kind of like, you know, you share the tools with the clients with the aim of actually having them to be self-sufficient along the way. So there is actually a catch here that, you know, Katie probably can speak a little bit better to, that ultimately you're going to make yourself obsolete or that redundant, you know, if you really roll it out, except for the fact that organizations change and new people come in and will need to be guided along the way. So I think it's very relevant to also as a consultant here.
Alex, I've used EOS. We actually have our own proprietary that's somewhat like an EOS, and I've actually found that it worked really well together. I think it enhanced it because I feel like EOS was is to be honest with you somewhat narrow, and I've been able to broaden it quite a bit with a lot of the tools that I've taken. I also think too that, you know, for me, I can say this for me, I'm always learning, but a lot of my consulting is intuition based, and I've really appreciated the different tools. I've also really appreciated the global perspective, learning about the different cultures and how they've handled, you know, different problem solving and things like that. So again, I feel like it has just truly strengthened my my consulting abilities.
Thank you, Alex, Katie, and Thomas. We have a question from Mariam. Mariam, would you like to read it directly, or should I read it from the chat?
Better if you read it because there's some
Okay.
noise here. Sorry. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. So Miriam's question is, thanks for this opportunity. My question is, in what ways is AI incorporated into the program and curriculum? Will participants gain the opportunity to explore its applications in organizational transformation and change? including its use as a client-facing tool. Okay, if Thomas and Katie give me a moment, I can jump into this to answer this question, and then I let them, in their own words, maybe say there wasn't any AI specific module in their cohort. Starting cohort 3, we have only planned 1 weekend under a module called Best Operational Practices. That was David's module, Thomas and Katie, where we invited an expert in AI. Adizes methodology is not around AI, but in the way and in the last years, we have understood that we need some AI to become faster, to give some of our clients delivery a little bit faster without spending a lot of time where the human time is not valued. So we're including only 1 weekend for cohort 3 that is aimed at how AI applies in a business methodology. If Katie and Thomas are interested, we can give live live session recording access to both, as this module was not included in the first cohort. So yeah, maybe they will, their honest answer would be there was no AI in the first cohort, right?
There was a little bit, there was AI sort of, do's and don'ts on the PAEI, the personality styles. There was a very brief, I don't remember if it was a blog or a video on this. But actually, I think AI in our case, we have a participant who used AI very, very actively for both perusing the LMS, the learning system material and the videos, and extracted that and did some summaries that he circulated here. And some of it was really horribly wrong. And also for some of the exercises, a lot of us used AI on the sidelines to synthesize, and that helped. But it's great to hear that you're actually including that in here, because it is, of course, a tool that is everywhere right now. Katie, do you have anything to add?
The only other thing I would add is a little bit of a different perspective in terms of when we went through what most people would call their strategic planning. They call it a mission action plan. And you do kind of a capability study. One of the things that you're looking at is external factors and technology and changing technology. And so because of that piece of it, I actually really dove deep into AI and how it's impacting our consulting world. And so that's but I didn't really look at it from from the Adizes methodology. I looked at it more from an external factor.
For that same module, I taught my AI how to make that mission action plan, and it drew up, since I was working with 2 of my own portfolio companies. I was juxtapositioned with that, so it actually really helped. So I now have a small AI that actually knows how to do an Adizes mission action plan based on my prescriptions.
Thank you.
I will say
Wow,
too,
great.
I created in my AI tool an Adizes folder. And so anytime I asked different questions, or I would put something in there, so I use that, so it really got to know the Adizes well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your question, Mariam, and to Thomas and Katie for their input. Back to Lisa. Next question, Lisa.
Oh, can you tell me a little bit more about the faculty of cohort 3?
Yeah. For that, I think I will give a presentation. I will share my screen. Okay. So I'm only going to go to the faculty. Clarice is our managing director, or was for first cohort. Greg Mathers is our quality or professional director, we call it. He's focused on the quality, and he's also an SME that Thomas and Katie just met during the last weekend. Shoham Adizes is also a faculty member. He's giving, I think, the most weekends along the program, at least for cohort 1. I am another faculty member. I focus only on the theory frameworks of Adizes, including life cycle, including PAI. Different to cohort 1, I gave CAPI sessions along with Shoham. Now we have another faculty member focused only on CAPI. It's Joaquin Colofon. I don't think he's in this presentation, but if needed, I can send you his resume. We have David O'Farrell, who is the managing director for Adizes Institute Worldwide. He's giving best operational practices module. He includes some frameworks that are outside the scope of Adizes, but can help have a better management for individuals or for executives. We are including Dario, who is an IT expert and AI expert for Insight best operational practices module with the AI sub-module that we talked about. Then we have Juan Jose Flores, is in between Juan Jose Flores and Shoham Adizes to give the conflict sources and additional facilitation process. We have Dr. Virginius Kundrotas, who is based in Lithuania, and he's giving the strategic direction, or as Thomas and Katie described it, the mission action plan. We have Rufat Jahangir, who is from Azerbaijan, and he's giving the structure model or organizational design. Yeah, that was mainly the faculty. We can share the whole faculty with you for this third cohort, Lisa, if you want to look at each module and each faculty member.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Do we have any other questions from the rest of the participants? I see some new participants joined. Any questions you have for Katie and Thomas regarding learning experience, regarding, I believe they already covered how long do you have to study. They covered how does Adizes engage with other methodologies that we already know. I think there's one important question that I don't know if it was already covered, maybe part of it, how to take the best advantages of this program. And that one was asked by a participant who is not here today, but wanted that question to be asked. So Katie and Thomas, if I already decided to enter the program, but I want to have a good balance in between, I don't know, family, in between study, in between work, in your experience, what is the best way that you can take the best advantage of this program? Understanding that everybody has a family, work, and study.
Thomas, I'll let you take that one first.
I was cheekily gonna say having a wife who likes to go to bed early is very helpful, but I think that's not really relevant because that means that having a class on a Saturday and Sunday night wasn't so much of a problem. For me, I think I struggled a little bit in the beginning because of I was working in so many different organizations, my own portfolio companies and my new board roles that quickly went out here. So I think picking one organization to somehow have as my example participant all the way probably would have made it a little bit less confusing for myself. And then I think, obviously some kind of study discipline is going to be necessary. So having the ability to set aside the time. One of the challenges is that, it was not possible to download the video material. So I couldn't study when I was flying, and I have 12-hour flights when I move. that would have been super helpful for me if I could have downloaded that on an iPad and studied along those things here. But so I had to be quite surgical in making sure I set aside time for when I could make sure I was prepared. I think that's basic, but I think anybody who's looking at, I mean, you can ask yourselves, you're looking at this commitment for this long here. If your life is in total upheaval, probably you're going to be struggling. If you have a semblance of rhythm and can see yourself fitting in what Katie mentioned is somewhere between 1.5 to up to 6 hours per week, then I think it's not that different from any other remote learning program here, that there is a preparation and then there's an attendance. I like the sessions very much that actually had a practical exercise element in them here. So again, for me, having picked which organization I was going to work on here would have been helpful. Katie?
Yeah, I would say in addition, I agree with everything Thomas said. I do think the discipline, I was very, very disciplined. I think I missed maybe 3 or 4 sessions the entire time, even when I was traveling and on vacation, because it was that important to me. I think in addition, they use a great communication tool. And I had a lot of not just using that was phenomenal with the group as a whole. You could ask questions, and Adizes was just amazing at answering those questions, but also I had a lot of my own on the side. And so I got to know, I feel like every single participant very deeply, and really kind of was very intentional about that, not just the personal, but also the business side. And like, for instance, Thomas and I, as an example, one of the participants was looking at selling his company, and he asked if the two of us would give him some advice and help him think through it. So that's just one example. There's another participant that's starting his own consulting firm, and I've spent some time with him outside of it. And so for me, I feel like it was the commitment to, I mean, there was only one time where I really struggled getting the work done because I had tons and tons of work and so I feel like I was very committed to that. Sometimes it was really, really challenging to get, if I worked a 12-hour day, to try to get some of my reading or watching the videos in. I found the readings to be easier for me, only because then, like Thomas said, when I traveled, I was able to take that with me and I could read it on the planes, whereas the videos I couldn't. But the videos I'd listen to going and to and from work, I'd listen to them. But I really think that, I mean, if you're going to spend the kind of money that it costs and the amount of, I feel like the money to me is nothing compared to the the commitment. And so we found we had a pretty large cohort, and then it really dwindled into a very, very, very committed group of individuals that worked really well together. And I think you get the best out of it by connecting to the people too. And I also enjoyed, related to the faculty, every one of them had a different style. They brought a different subject area that they knew very deeply. And they brought a different learning style, teaching style, which was great, because I think it allowed everybody who has different learning styles to learn, from different types of styles. And the faculty I thought was phenomenal. They really know their stuff, and I thought they did a great job. Some of them really brought in the real world experiences, like David. He actually brought in a case study that was actually going on that we got to help think through, which was really great. And so anyway, but those are some of the ways that I would really take full advantage of it.
Thank you very much, Katie. Lisa, I don't know if you have any other questions in your list.
I do. I am curious about one of the others on Diego's list, just what it's like when you have to miss sessions and how that impacts your experience. And then I'll tack on a second one, which is, I'm just curious what you found most challenging about the program.
Thomas, you want to go first, or you want me
Sure.
to?
Sure. Well, missing a session, I think, will be, for this cohort here, since it's possible to catch up on one basis. I think I think we suffered a little bit more because of our schedule. The provider was only able to upload after the weekend. So if you miss Saturday, you would show up for Sunday session without knowing what had happened on Saturday. So I think if you know that, I think Rodrigo, you said it's going to be Tuesday, Thursday schedule now, right?
Yeah, we're aiming for Tuesday, Thursday for cohort 3.
Yeah, and
Oh,
you'll be
that's
if
great.
yeah, if you miss Tuesday session, you'll be able to watch it Thursday before you show up for Thursdays. So I think it will be a minimal. You will. I mean, again, if you have the ability to find that hour and a half to watch it, or hour if you speed up the session, you won't feel much of an impact. The most challenging part for me was the module I found the intellectually most challenging was the structure module, which I know one of you also has asked about. Also because the teaching style was quite different from what we had experienced right before. We had a very light touch a module before that where we were really working on our own organizations. So self-driven, we were subject matter experts on our own organizations. And the structure module is really quite intellectual and philosophical, but I really, really enjoyed it. But I was a little bit taken by surprise by how much it required of me to do this. I would gladly do that module again, and I think it should have been at least 50% longer because it was really, really interesting and super applicable for what I do as a board member.
Yeah, Lisa, I think now that I had given the feedback that even if it was a Friday, Saturday, I thought that would have been so much better to have a full day off. Because I was fortunate because it was first thing in the morning, but it was still a huge commitment, especially during certain seasons. And so I did find that part to be challenging if you missed a session, especially the Saturday. I mean, then you really came in at, not only did you come in at a disadvantage, but also oftentimes you're doing case study work or you're doing small group work and you couldn't contribute to the same degree because oftentimes it translated from Saturday to Sunday was the same exercise, only you were doing it deeper. And so I think the Tuesday, Thursday, I would have loved a day in between because there were times some of the facilitators would give you, like they'd want you to take what you learned during that session and then work on it overnight. And that was really challenging because on the weekends didn't have nearly as much of that time. I would agree with Thomas. I thought the structure by far was the most challenging subject, and yet for me, probably one of the most important. And I'm still a tad so that was challenging. The other thing for me that was challenging is that and I'm going to give this feedback because they're phenomenal with taking feedback, I will say, and so you guys are really fortunate, is that most of the case studies and most of the examples were very large organizations. And I wished that there would have been more of the growth stage organizations that maybe were 50 and maybe 200 or 300 versus, thousands. And so for me, a challenge also was taking it from like even the exercises for me, I was really looking for them to be highly, highly relevant for my clients and for, my organization. And sometimes they were much more complex than what I normally have to deal with, if that makes sense. And so really applying it to my clients and my world that I live in some cases was, I mean, it was interesting. I really enjoyed it, but there were times where I wish that there was maybe two tracks, like the large global and then more of your growth stage organizations. So those were probably the two challenging things.
Thank you. And if I may just confirm, I've heard you say Tuesday, Thursday. I had in my notes for a previous call Monday, Wednesday. So I'd just like to confirm the live session days.
Yeah, Diego, do you want to go ahead or?
Yeah, Lisa, after receiving the feedback and your call, we looked into it and we're looking with the other participants. We were looking at Monday and Wednesday, but we understand that Monday mornings can be challenging for a lot of people. So yeah, we're switching to Tuesday, Thursday at the moment. Tuesday, Thursday mornings. And yeah, since Katie and Thomas joined, this decision was also made from their feedback. So thanks, Katie, and thanks, Thomas.
And
Thank-
that is Was it 9 to 10:30 Central Time?
Yes,
Okay.
same time
Oh,
schedule.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, Katie, first of all, thanks for the feedback. I agree. Maybe all of the real case scenarios were around Google, Tesla, even around a peer of yours, big company. So it would be very interesting to include smaller business scenarios, or at least those companies when they were at a smaller size, and from there go up to their prime, maybe. So thanks for the feedback.
Yeah.
I'll share it with the other SMEs.
Well, I mean, I think I would add that we did actually do a little bit of exercises on looking at the earlier stages of these very well-known companies, when at their, transition on Apple, the leadership style between Jobs and the team that threw him out. So you shouldn't be frightened that it's all going to be a big company, because it is, even though they are big companies now, there was also a focus on how they became that big. I think one thing that we haven't really talked about is the mix of the cohort. I mean, we had family-owned business from the Caribbean, South African school administrator, Kazakhstan telecom operator, Venezuelan growth driver in a big Mexican company, and Katie from the Midwest doing consultancy. I mean, it was we could go on. The mix of participants was really, really interesting, and I think we've all learned without really knowing that we've learned, because it wasn't part of the curricula, how things are done differently in many parts of the world, and we've had some really interesting discussions about corporate cultures across different geographies, and I think especially our Kazakhstan participants went through a bit of an awakening along the way when he realized how different things could have been if he had been somewhere else along the way, which was really quite interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in, thank you, Thomas, with Lisa's previous question around what happens if you miss a live session. I know Thomas and Katie said there's live session recordings, but I believe in at least in my view, one of the most important exercises that we apply are around peer or private groups. We do breakout rooms, and in there we let participants go through any case, a question, reflect on something, and that is very, very important. I know, as they said, you won't be able to attend the 50 weeks or the 44 weeks that are of learning, but I would encourage for any participants who would join to try to miss as few sessions as possible, because those live sessions, the breakout rooms are not recorded. We only record the big room where we do maybe some teaching, some peer learning, but those exercises that are very valuable are not recorded.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. So any other questions we have from the participants? Evelyn, do you have any questions so far?
I have a very provocative question because I haven't got the answer yet. I'm an executive coach, actually. I'm not a consultant, and I'm into change. I mean, I create transformation in the companies, and I use many models. And in Estonia, we have many SMEs and we have many startups. And I heard, Katie, you were talking about the big corporations, which I'm not actually into. So my question for both of you is that what's value you really got out of Adizes method? What is this 1-2 thing what created value to your work? Because you are both into the business for a while. There are so many models. I want to know, can you, how to say, I need some confirmation that this model is something I can put into my practice and will create more value than I'm having at the moment. Yeah.
You want to start, Katie?
Go ahead. I'm going to think for a second.
It's like some tangible thing or something that, okay,
Yeah.
I saw that, okay,
So-
this model was, wow, Yeah.
So, Evelyn, for me, the latest assignment I've taken on is a company with about 80 employees, 28-year-old, still in a very, I mean, somehow on the cusp of infancy, going into go-go, with a lovely founder who had this vision that he was going to get his company to a perfect place where everything was smooth sailing, and you know, all his problems would be over. So I think the first thing that you will learn of value in this program is that, you know, what you're managing here is change. So as any human being with a little bit of experience knows that, you know, there is no such a thing. But I think having a language around that talks about normal problems, abnormal problems, and that there is a sequence. There are phases for how to deal with these things that eventually gets you better on this one here. I think that speaks exactly to what you are, regardless of what size of organization you're in. Even, you know, coaching an owner operator of a company here who is simply just, in my case, he's exhausted from having, you know, kept this thing together for 28 years with two partners who were not the right ones and are not the right ones. But that whole thing, that epiphany he had when I showed him these models that shows that there are abnormal problems and normal problems, was a real eye opener for him. So I think that there is something really simple and tangible as an example for this that helped. And then further on, that you have a methodology, a how to, you know, how do you go about this, you know, and will be suitable for organizations of any size, because it's all human interaction really when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
Evelyn, I also do a lot of business coaching with CEOs one-on-one, where maybe I'm not consulting in their entire business, I'm working only with them. And I took, you know, for me, I took some tangibles, and I took it also, I feel like so often I would sit with what I had learned, and I would challenge myself to, how can I apply this in what I already know? How can I look at the methodology or the process that I already have and look at it differently? And so there's so many things that I've taken from it, from the PAEMI model, the management tool. Now I am working with all of my owners, like in my coaching, and we're talking about, are all of these covered? And I've taken that tool, for instance, when they're going to hire somebody new, we think about it not just from the job description, but also this role requires, for instance, a high P. So they're going to really be externally facing, or this position requires somebody that's more of a long-term thinker versus a short-term thinker. And so it's really given me a lot of that particular area. I've also, for instance, I have a client that I'm working with. It's a large nonprofit, and they are expanding into a lot of different territories. And so we're going through the structure part of it, and really have taken a lot of what I learned in the structure piece. And she and I are going through and really thinking about, how do we redesign the structure? And I didn't really have that, like, I'd read it, but I hadn't really thought about, we learned so many different ways that you can structure, as an example, and also the kind of the methodology that you go through to even think about restructuring. I mean, I could go on, to be honest with you, I could go on and on about all of the different tools I've taken. The capabilities model has been phenomenal. A lot of times I'll give my CEOs, I'll give them an assignment that I have taken from my Adizes, that have them working on it as well. And so I personally feel like it has given me, it's made me a lot better of a consultant, even in that the coaching capacity. Even some of the like they even give facilitation tools and best practices, whether it's a meeting or whether it's even in the Zoom and things like that. And so there's been a lot of things I've been able to, whether I take it directly or whether I take what I've learned and I apply it to what I already am doing, but I do it maybe a little bit differently or add something to it. It's been very valuable in that regard. And I think the other thing for me, being in the US is so big that, you know, now I travel for pleasure, and I've had some global clients, but really the global perspective has also been valuable, because I have clients that either are or thinking about expanding globally, and so it's provided me a lot there. And I think just having contacts, I feel like I have lifelong friends that I can reach out to as well, that are great resources. Did I answer your question, Evelyn?
Yes.
Okay.
Very
Thank
well.
you very much, Katie, Evelyn, for your question, and Katie and Thomas. I would love to jump in as well with Katie, but I am biased because I am in the PAI roles and style courses teaching, so it's not my place here to go in the content. We have, I think, time for one last question. It is a good question, and it is, how did you apply the learned content along the year? Did you have to wait for the whole year to end to apply it, or could you apply it on the way after each module, after each session? What was your experience, Katie and Thomas?
So my experience, I didn't have to wait till the end at all. Again, though, I went in with, I would say out of out of the whole year, I probably went in with maybe a 10% understanding, to be honest with you. So it wasn't completely cold to me, but there was a lot of things that were very new. And but there was so many different things, from big things to little things, that I completely, started applying. There was one, I can't remember if it was Rodrigo or somebody, another facilitator. It sounds funny, but they talked about, rules versus policies versus guidelines. And I know that sounds really small, but I applied that right away, where really differentiating so that policies don't blend in with rules, which is really your non-negotiables. And I had a client that literally the next week I went through with their leadership team and really said, let's really divide, let's determine the difference between the two. And it made a huge difference in that organization. And so I applied things as quickly as I could. And I also too had a standing meeting with my team about once every 2 to 3 weeks, and would share a lot of what I had learned, and we would talk about how we wanted to apply that. I also had used, like I said, the Adizes life cycle in when we were doing organizational assessments. And so I redid that, not only in the assessments and a lot of the questions that we asked, but also in the deeper, like in the delivery of the Adizes life cycles to those clients. And so I started applying very quickly. Thomas, what about you?
Yeah, same. I guess it depends a little bit on how fluid and dynamic your situation is. It's not going to be one-to-one that you learn something this week and you apply it next week. I think my best example was David O'Farrell, who in his module was around delegation rules, and like Katie said, rules, policies, rules, and guidelines. And then he introduced a concept called Kinevin, which is about how to look at situations, whether they're simple or complex or complicated. And I was scratching the back of my head thinking, why did he go down this rabbit hole? What are we going to do this for? And the following week, one of my companies was looking at a joint venture. And I actually, together with the CEO of this company, plotted in, and we found out that, exactly how on this matrix this whole thing, this whole idea figured in. And there was a takeaway, if this is what you find, then this is what you should look at, which is what I like about Adizes different phases, that it's very, very pragmatic. So, I had not expected ever to be able to use some Welsh-labeled complexity matrix in real life, but, it took less than 10 days and it actually became really, really useful.
I will say one last note, there are some concepts that I think are more complex, like the organizational transformation, if you were to do it through the 11 steps and things like that, that I think Thomas may feel differently. I don't feel qualified to go and apply all of that now by any means. And I feel like I'd be doing my clients a tremendous disservice if I even tried. And so there's pieces of it that are very applicable and easy to apply, and there's pieces of it that I would argue probably take another year to go deeper to really be able to apply it fully. But there was more than enough that I took from it that it was worth every penny and every hour that I invested.
Yeah, it's kind of like
So,
you scrape the surface and you study. I think Shoham used this analogy that you start learning how to dance. So you learn the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you look at some very, very seasoned dancers, and you can't see them doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But it's everything they do is based on having that understanding of how things work. And I think that's what we've started now. You know, we've learned you know, how it works at a theoretic basic level, and then the rest of it is basically just listening to the music and being able to follow the rhythm and applying this. And life doesn't follow 11 stages or 11 steps when it develops, but every company will be at every stage at some point in its life, you know, and it's going to be applicable in that sense.
Lisa, I will say I envy you if you are able to get a team together to go through it. I think that would have just honestly exponentially impacted my organization if my other 3 partners would have gone through it with me. So I think that's brilliant if you can. And the last thing I'll say on it is just if you're looking for, you know, I was looking to be inspired. Every year I do a deep dive in a particular area that I want to get deeper into. And this really inspired me. It challenged me. It was very invigorating in many respects. I mean, I can't say enough about the experience.
It's great to hear. Thank you.
No, I mean, I did feel at one point that, you know, feeling a little bit lonely with having these new tools with names on it. And, you know, one of my first questions was like, how am I going to do this if I can't haul all my other board members and company owners through this program here? But actually, as you go along, you realize that there's common sense, universal truth to this, and that Adizes terminology has put names on it and put it together in a comprehensive system, but it's highly applicable. You can talk to anybody about it without actually using the PAEI or the life cycle or the go-go or the, you know, it doesn't work like that, that you have to become a convert and learn the methodology. Is still highly applicable along the way. So I was scared in the beginning, and then now I'm comfortable with it. Yeah.
The other thing that we never even mentioned was not only do you build these great relationships, but you get invested in everybody's companies and the things that they're doing. I mean, it's really fun in that regard too, you know, to hear how they're applying Adizes or even just what they're going through, the challenges and things. So
yeah, actually our biggest challenge right now is to figure out where in the world we're going to meet for this, you know, face-to-face meeting, because scattered, you know, over so many time zones. I think Mexico is winning, huh, Katie?
it seems like it at the moment,
Yeah,
although
yeah.
I'm kind of for Thailand.
Yeah,
I'm waiting also for that invitation.
sure.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay, so I think we have to wrap up. We have 3 minutes left. It's Monday morning, as we said. Everybody should have their start of the week ongoing. Thank you very much, Katie, Thomas, for your time, for sharing this with all of us. And thank you, Alex, Lisa, Evelyn, Mariam, Pablo, also Diego, for joining. And hopefully this can let you make the best decision whether if this is the program you are looking for. I hope all your questions have been addressed. If you have any other questions, please let us know, and offline we can sort them out. Thank you, everyone, and have a great start of the week, a great Monday, and hope to see you in our cohort 3.
Yeah, good luck, everybody.
Everybody, good luck.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.